offers a surprising amount of free camping from the Panhandle all the way down to the Everglades. But if you think free camping in Florida is as easy as pulling up and parking, think again.
I think I need you to push this tree and just hold it out of the way.
Oh, is it high enough?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's just brushing the tips. My arm is hurting. Whew. Unlike out west, where you can often just show up and claim a spot, most of Florida's free camping areas require reservations, some weeks in advance. And with different agencies managing different sites, figuring out where to book and how to get the gate codes, finding a place to camp can feel like a full-time job. As of 2 hours ago, we changed plans. But after months of boondocking across the entire Sunshine State, we've cracked the code. This is how I've got it figured out in my handy computer here. If you're new here, we're Kalyn and Joseph, and we've traveled full-time in our 20-year-old fifth wheel for 6 years. In this video, we're breaking down exactly what free camping looks like in Florida, where to find it, and what to expect. And if you're looking for a resource to help you navigate Florida's free camping scene with way less hassle, stick around. We've got something in the works that you won't want to miss.
We drove hours and hours driving to various boondocking spots, getting a gate code, going through, getting photos.
This video is brought to you by Battleborn.
Did you hit the right button?
Yes.
You did.
Did I?
You did.
I hit the right button?
You did.
Okay. We're filming. We're live. Actually, no, we're not
live.
We're
This
live
is
right now, though,
pre-recorded.
for us.
Oh my goodness.
Let's start this over. We're going to talk about free camping in Florida. Now, this is kind of similar, but also not, to our recap in Alaska.
Yeah, the Alaska one, we covered like everything about Alaska that we possibly could. This one, we're gonna focus like just on free and a little bit of cheap camping in the state.
Because I think people are, at least we were really interested in, like, what kind of free camping is available in Florida. First of all, did you even realize, if you haven't watched our entire series, that there's free camping? Because generally, East Coast camping is very, very hard to come by. So Florida is kind of a rarity in that there are at least over 50
spots.
Different spots that you can camp at in Florida. And so,
Is she getting in the, no, she's not
no,
there.
she's not.
She's right here.
Let me show you what Trinity's
on.
doing. What are you doing?
Hi.
There's the camera. There's you.
She has to be part of it. Even a recap video.
Anyway,
All right.
where was I? So basically, we're kind of gonna cover 3 different major topical sections. Is how I've got it figured out in my handy computer here. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna talk about is kind of like what's different about the free camping in Florida versus out west. Then we're gonna go into how to actually find the free campsites. We're gonna talk about the reservation systems. We're gonna get a lot more detail. And then we're gonna talk about some of the cheaper campsite options for if maybe you wanna kind of like mix it up with some free stuff versus cheap. And of course, we'll end with sharing all our numbers because your girl kept a spreadsheet.
So one of the big differences as far as Florida boondocking compared to out west boondocking is the reservation system. There aren't a lot of places out west that require reservations. In Florida, however, like most of them require some sort of reservation and sometimes a permit that you have to buy that'll last for a whole year.
In addition to the reservation. So there's a lot more legwork and planning that you have to do. And there's also going to be gate codes that come with the reservation. So you can't just show up because you probably won't get in because there's a gate locking it up, which I guess makes you feel a little more safe. I don't know.
And it can get confusing because every agency is different. Like if you're out west, it's BLM, National Forest land, maybe some state land here or there. And again, it's usually like, oh, camping's allowed, first come, first serve. Here in Florida, you have county water management districts and you have national forests.
And all of them are going to have different websites.
Especially the water management, they all have different websites and different ways of getting through it. So it can get a little confusing.
In terms of like, I labeled this under proximity. So this is actually where we are very similar to camping out west, because out west, we usually have to make sure we stop by a Walmart on a travel day because we could be 2 hours from a Walmart. Down here, that's not necessarily the case. You're gonna find a Walmart, you're gonna find a Publix and a stone's throw everywhere. But in terms of the touristy things,
Right.
the beaches, like the activities that you think about when you're doing Florida, not necessarily close by.
Yeah, and that's similar out west. Usually if you're boondocking near a national park, you're not super near the national park. You're driving away. So obviously there are exceptions. There's some places in Florida. There's one campground that we were at that was within probably 45 minutes from Disney.
Yeah, that was Three Lakes management area.
But typically you're going to be a good distance away.
Yeah, so either prepare to drive or not visit those things, or just find things to do around the area that you're in. Because Florida, if you've never been to Florida, it is not all Disney, and it is not all Orlando, and it's not all manicured.
And it's a lot bigger than you think.
Yeah. There are a lot of like that old Florida vibe, a lot of swamp, a lot of like, but it's just, yeah, Everglades times 2.
Yep.
The other thing is in terms of like getting to and from places, the dirt roads can be long.
And low-hanging branches. Out west, you occasionally have to worry about branches and trees. So much of the boondocking in Florida, you're driving through one-lane dirt road, and it's going to be different depending on people's comfort level. If you do not want a branch to ever touch, and by branch I mean like the super small leafy one. If you don't want that to touch your RV, there's a lot of boondocking spots in Florida that you're either going to have to go through with a tree trimmer before you go through, or you're just not gonna like those spots because there's so many that are that way.
Potts Preserve at Hootie Point is one that I'm thinking of, where I literally had to hold a tree out of the way. Oh, is that good?
And we still had some twigs that went down the side of the RV and things like that. So much more tree coverage on the roads going into these various boondocking
which is a
spots.
problem when we get into the solar thing, but we're not there yet.
We'll get there in a few minutes.
So in terms of amenities, there are actually quite a few more perks to camping in Florida.
I was shocked because we're so used to the amenities being nothing. Like maybe a stone ring marking a fire.
Right.
What sort of amenities are we getting in Florida?
So you're still not going to have hookups, but you're probably going to have picnic tables, sometimes pavilions, actual fire, like metal fire ring pits, grills. We saw a lot of trash cans.
I was going to say, you're
dumpsters,
bearing the lead. There's trash can and dumpsters.
And a lot of places, because many of these campgrounds are for equestrian campers as well, and horse trailers, they also have water. Now, it's always non-potable. I don't think we ever came across anything that had potable water.
I don't think so either.
Ooh. Potable water, that is rare for a boondocking spot. And something to be aware of, because you don't have electric hookups, is can you run your AC or not on a generator, or do you have enough solar to run your AC? Because Florida can be very wild in terms of can be super cold and like snow on the ground in the panhandle this year.
The sandy shores of Pensacola looked a lot whiter Tuesday night. Inches of snow and sleet coating the panhandle.
Versus extremely hot in February, which sent us scattering to go find a actual full hookup campground.
We actually had to book at Torrey Campground because the weather had changed.
We had a boondocking spot planned.
And it was too hot. So you just have to take that into consideration for sure. And no, if you're Texas, Arizona, one of those wonderful states out west, you come to Florida, you say 80 degrees, you're gonna think, oh, balmy, 80, not so bad. No, the humidity makes it feel like it's 207.
I feel like my hair is exploding already.
And we're in the north of Florida right now. The humidity makes a difference.
But we definitely ran our generator quite a lot more because of just the whole like tree coverage thing, the whole lack of solar. Like even solar in winter is hard anyway, no matter where you're parking
I was gonna say,
the United States.
You kind of skipped over this whole fact that so many of the boondocking spots are tree covered. So your solar aspect is you're not going to get a ton of solar at most of the boondocking spots. We counted 5, maybe 6 boondocking spots that were field-like. You could get lots of solar power, lots of Starlink, no problem, but that's 5 or 6 out of like 50 to 60
Yeah, and
spots.
do you want me to give you just like a few of them in case you want to like write them down?
Yeah,
so we've got Joseph's favorite, Lake Panasoffkee. Stayed there right after the RV show. We got Three Lakes Water Management Area, which we already mentioned, 20 minutes outside Kissimmee. The Hickory Hammock, which was north of Lake Okeechobee. That one was really nice and open. We also had Wilderness Landing in the Panhandle, which is sort of like iffy.
It depends on where you park.
Yeah.
Yep. And then there's Dupuis, management area, which we haven't gotten into before, but we've seen it, we've walked through it.
Yeah.
And you could easily get solar and Starlink there as well. A lot of the rest, it's iffy.
It's in the woods.
It depends on where you park. You might be able to get Starlink, but not solar. You might be able to get, you know, Starlink that's up 70% of the time.
Because that's the thing. If you don't have solar, it's very hard to have Starlink because of the tree coverage.
So I guess maybe if you come to Boondock, Florida, and your only source of internet is Starlink and you need internet, highly recommend having some sort of a backup option, whether it's Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile.
Yeah.
A lot of the sites we went to, we only have Verizon. A lot of them had Verizon coverage of some sort. Some of them didn't, obviously.
Yeah, there were like a handful that were extremely remote that absolutely no speed test would even like come up and work. But for the majority of them, they were decent.
Yep.
Is what I would say. But if you're coming to Florida and you're thinking, okay, what do I need to boondock? I got a generator, do I need some solar? Let's kind of show you our setup. Our entire roof is not littered with solar panels and we're still able to make it work.
Our minimalist setup really works super well until you get to tree covered spots. So Sunshine State in Florida has been a little bit of a challenge, which is why I'm so grateful that we have a decent sized battery bank. So we have 640 watts of solar, we have 300 amp hours of battery, and I've actually got 3 more batteries sitting in here that aren't hooked up to anything. Kalyn has been bugging me. She's like, we really need to get those hooked up.
Because it would be so helpful. Look at all that extra battery.
We've got all this extra storage just sitting here doing nothing. But why it is so important to have good battery bank when you're here in Florida is because that lack of sunshine when you're in the trees, you just want to fire this up for like 3, maybe 4 hours and then turn it back off and then just sip off of the glorious battery bank. We can do that for about a day with the 300 amp hours of batteries. If I would get off my butt and install these, we might be able to last 2 days before running the generator again when we're not getting sunshine to charge everything up. So we've been traveling for 6 years. The ones that are hooked up in there are the original, well, 2 of them are the original batteries that we bought when we renovated this RV, and they have worked almost flawlessly. I say almost, because about 3 years in, one of them did fail, and we reached out to Battleborn. We called them and said, hey, you guys have an awesome warranty. Let's put that to the test. And they sent us a package. We put the battery in and sent it to them. They sent us back a brand new battery.
So that's something we really love about the company, especially as we've seen in the last 6 years, battery companies just come and go, and you have no idea if they're gonna be around to even honor your warranty.
So that's why we're so happy to have Battleborn work with us. When we first started RVing, we used this brand and they have been so good to us that when we started up YouTube and when it looked like, hey, we might be able to get sponsors, Kalyn and I had a conversation of like, what products are we okay putting our name behind? Battleborn was near the top of the list. So when we met them at the RV show, we talked to them, they answered a bunch of our questions, and then they said, hey, we'd like to be a sponsor for one of your videos. We jumped at the chance because we love these batteries, and if I went back and did everything all over again, I would still go with Battleborn because I know I can trust the brand.
So we'll leave a link to Battleborn in the description below. We'll also put a QR code on the screen so you can give them a visit. And we truly want to be authentic and honest with the companies that we stand behind. And so that's why we're so grateful to Battleborn for sponsoring this video.
So the #1 difficulty in Florida that surprised me the most was the lack of solar. It is the Sunshine State after all. But the #2 problem, no pun intended, is the lack of free dump stations.
Surprisingly, there are a very limited number of dump stations across the state. In fact, you're mostly gonna find dump stations at state parks. They're gonna be $10 to use plus tax. You could also stop by a Love's gas station. Those are gonna be about $10. And then we have used a campground before that was up to $15. We did get quoted $35 at another one. We skipped that.
And if you're planning on camping at a single spot for any length of time, I highly recommend picking up yourself a macerator and a portable tank like this. It allows you to transfer all your waste into the portable tank, and then you can just take the truck to the dump station and dump it. I have had success in going in and talking to various places and say, hey, it's gonna take me 2 trips to dump my whole RV. Can I just pay the fee once and come twice? I've never had anybody turn me down with that so far. We'll have links to the macerator we use and the tank we use in the description. You can try it out for yourself. It's a whole lot of fun.
Now, how do you find these free campsites? We kind of did an overview of everything, what you can expect. Now we're gonna dive into the nitty gritty. Now there's a few different agencies that are gonna offer these free campsites. We've got the water management districts, we have the Florida Fish and Wildlife Service, or FWC for short. We have some county managed parks, and we also have national forests. Those are gonna be the places that you can find the free camping. The water management districts, there are 5 of them all across Florida. 3 of them are where you'll find most of the sites, and you can go straight to their websites, Google these districts, and you're gonna find a way to make that reservation for the campground that you want to stay at. The next one down, the FWC. Now these are usually first come, first serve, or they can be a reservation. So you have to check the FWC website to basically see which one it is. However, with either one of them, you do need to buy a one-time $29 annual management permit. But this covers all the FWC campsites. There's a lot of them, so it's just one purchase, and again, a super, super, super cheap way to spend your, or park your rig in Florida. The national forests, now those are gonna be for smaller rigs and vans. I think maybe we stayed at the West Tower Hunt Camp in the Osceola National Forest. I would say that was probably one of the bigger ones that we could fit our rig in, but most of them are gonna be really down long dirt roads. They're gonna be for hunters who come in their tents, come in the vans, and so generally you're not gonna find a lot of like space to park your rig with those ones. So I really like the water management districts, plus that's where you're gonna find the majority of your amenities like the picnic tables and pavilions and fire pits and such. And then the county managed parks are usually first come, first serve as well. Now you can find these just by Googling, like I said, going to the water management district websites. I will add all those websites below, the FWC, the National Forest, we'll have all that in the description. You can also visit places like iOverlander, use that app. However, I would be very, very careful with that app, especially if you are in a big rig, because they generally are geared towards van lifers and car campers, and there's a lot of places on there that aren't necessarily legal to camp. So just be really aware of that. When it comes to the reservations that you're gonna have to make, here's what you can expect. On these websites, there's anywhere from maybe 1 to 12 sites that you can reserve. Some of these campground spots are very, very tiny. We actually visited quite a few that only had like 1 campsite that you could reserve. One had 3 of them. So definitely make sure that there's a lot of competition is what I'm trying to say. So make sure you get them in early. However, there are a lot of different rules that sometimes make that impossible. So there are some water management districts that require, like the Dupuy Water Management area down near Lake Okeechobee. That one is, you cannot reserve until like 14 days in advance. So other ones you can reserve up to 30 days in advance. Other ones you can reserve up to 60 days in advance. So there's a lot of different rules. So when you visit these websites, make sure you're reading through the rules so that you don't break any of them. Because even some of them are like, you can only stay for 7 days, you can stay for 14 days, you can't stay for more than 14 days in a 30-day period, or you can stay for 7 days here, but there must be 1 day in between before you go to another campground within the water management district. It is honestly so confusing, and that's why earlier Joseph said it probably took me twice as long to plan to make sure that we weren't gonna get ourselves kicked out. And I just realized that I forgot to tell you about all the rules regarding the hunts. Well, those change depending on the agency that you are with as well, because some places you can only camp during hunting season, and then other spots you can't camp during hunting season. Like we had to leave Hampton Tract in Polk County because of a hog hunt, and there's turkey hunts, and there's so many hunts, and it's very, very confusing to try to keep it all straight. But on the websites, they will generally say, we are not available for reservations during this time period, and they won't let you book it. So rely on that. Now, if that sounds really confusing, we actually have a solution for you.
You have a solution.
No, you helped too.
I was the chauffeur that drove around, and then I did fly the drone up to get some aerial photos of these spots.
So we probably stayed in, I would say, 10 different boondocking spots in Florida. We didn't film all of them, but we visited over 50 of them. So we went through all of these websites. We combed through and picked out all of the boondocking spots. We visited all of them.
We drove hours and hours driving to various boondocking spots, getting a gate code, going through, getting photos. It was something
checking
else.
out the, saying what amenities were there, saying whether it was solar or Starlink friendly, saying whether, what max length RV could you pull into this campsite.
Our assessment of that.
Yeah, where could you park best? What are the speed tests in terms of if you need the cell service? So there's a lot of stuff that we went in to look and make sure we got all the information on these campsites. We also have all the information kind of rounded up based on each of the rules for all of the water management districts, because like I was just telling you, it is insane.
And this is where you keep saying we, but she means she, because you have done all this compiling because you are a wizard at this stuff. And I feel the need to say, all of this information is available online.
You could Google it.
You can Google it, you can find it, but it is hard to find.
That's really why we wanted to create this resource for you. We have worked on, I have worked on a website that you're gonna be able to access. Now, it is not available yet, but we're gonna leave a waitlist sign-up form in the description below so you can get yourself on that if you're like, I would really love to camp for free in Florida, and you want all the details on all the different sites, because on this website you are going to be selecting them, seeing all the amenities, seeing our personal review, because we have visited all of these. We know what the roads are like. We can let you know that there's low-hanging branches at the time of when we, visited that campsite. So we're gonna have all of this prepared for you, hopefully in fall of this year, 2025.
Not hopefully, you're gonna get it done.
Okay, I'm gonna get it done. We've got all the data. I just need to start putting it together in a way that is gonna be easiest for you to use. So if you're interested in that, sign up below and we'll send you a notification or an email when that is up and ready. And if you're watching this in
you're time traveling,
August, September 2025, that link will change to the exact resource.
So those are all the free camping options that we found here in Florida. There are some cheaper options as well. You don't have to stay at the $200 a night RV resort. There are state forests. They're about $9 to $13 a night. There are state parks. They're a little bit more expensive. I will say though, state parks in season, so in your winter months in Florida, are very hard to get into. So I highly recommend a service like RVARVIE. We'll put a link in the description, because that's gonna potentially allow you to get a spot when somebody cancels. But I don't know of a state park in Florida that is easy to get into when you're making a reservation. They book out really quick. And lastly, where we are right now, we are at a hip camp. Have we told you that already? We're at a hip camp. This is our very first time staying at a hip camp. It's paying for dry camping, which is something that I typically, how do I say this? I'm not fond of. But this might change my mind. We're staying at a blueberry farm. We're the only RV here. We're actually pretty close to Fernandino, I don't know if I pronounced that right, beach, so we can get in and out, and we have security. This particular property has a gate that we come through. So honestly, for the 35 bucks a night in the state of Florida, I can be convinced that paying for dry camping is not a bad thing. And I know some of you are probably screaming at the computer right now, Boondockers welcome, Harvest hosts. Boondockers welcome, in our experience in the state of Florida, is primarily for smaller rigs, because most of the time you are going to be parked in a driveway. A couple years ago, Kalyn and I stayed in Sanford, I think is where we were in Florida, and it was wonderful family, beautiful place, but our RV was literally hanging out into the sidewalk. And so as we've kind of browsed through Boondockers Welcome, it seems like all of them are similar to that style. It's not like wide open property. And then a lot of the Harvest hosts We don't use Harvest Host that often because it's literally just one night. And we don't move that quickly. We like to get in a space, stay there for 5 to 14 days. So that's why we are liking this hip camp spot, because we can pay, we can be here, we can enjoy it, and we don't have to leave tomorrow.
All right, the last little bit. I know we've been yapping.
This is what everybody's here for. That's why we put it at the end.
The numbers. How much did we spend during our time in Florida?
We need to give 2 sets of numbers on this. We need to give the set of numbers that's the real set, and then we need to subtract the whole debacle of the resort.
We shouldn't,
and then,
yeah, we shouldn't subtract everything in the Keys. We should just subtract Sun Outdoors.
Yes.
Because that was, if you didn't watch that video, go watch that video. So we actually rolled into Florida on December 1st, 2024.
Wow. That was a long time ago.
And we're leaving Florida tomorrow. So maybe I should do a 119 days, but I'm gonna stick with today. 118 days that we have spent. So what is that? 30 days, that's almost 4 months.
I'll put it in perspective. We spent longer here than we did in Alaska.
Really?
Because wasn't it 3 months in Alaska?
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 months in Florida.
Wow. It did go by fast though,
It did go by really fast.
So anyway, our whole goal was to RV Florida for cheap or free, and that meant cheap activities, cheap camping. So here's what we got. The final total for activities, from like some state parks to a paddle launch to our day in Orlando. I did add the snorkeling in there that we did.
And dry Tortugas, I see that there.
Yep. Oh yeah, that was, oh, so hang
You have
on.
that as activities, not as lodging.
No, I had that, I had dry Tortugas as lodging,
There
not
we go.
activity. Okay. I gotta change.
Please hold.
I gotta change my
Please.
numbers. No, we don't need to hold. I'm ready.
Okay, you
I'm
ready?
ready.
All right.
Okay. So between all of that, because Dry Tortugas was expensive, that was
Uh-huh.
$390 just to go to Dry Tortugas. It was $648.05 for activities
In
for
4 months.
For 4 months.
So that's
Yeah, 'cause
just over $100 a month.
Because we did a lot of free stuff.
Yep.
When it comes to lodging, we did mostly boondocking. We bought that annual management permit for $29. We stayed at the Florida Fairgrounds. That was expensive. We also had the Sun Outdoors. That was very expensive in the Keys, a state park, and this hip camp. So that totaled out to $1,736.49 for lodging.
Again, for 4
So,
months. Not too shabby.
In terms of, oh wait, let me share tolls first, because we said we were gonna share tolls
Oh, yes.
on how
Yes.
much we spent in tolls throughout the entire state. So that was, I looked up my SunPass account, it was $98.45. I was shocked at that
That
number,
was-
actually.
That was almost exclusively around Orlando. We
Yep.
did some in Miami and some in Tampa. Not a lot, but Orlando, we did a lot of
was
traveling around that
massive.
area,
Yeah.
and that adds up really
And I think
fast.
we were in that area with the rig at one point, which meant more axles, and
Right.
that was...
Well, and we drove
yeah.
back and forth to pick up the new truck through a
Yeah.
bunch of tolls. It was,
So I think if you're gonna be around the major cities, I do think getting a SunPass would be
Yeah.
helpful.
unless you're somebody who always clicks avoid tolls and takes it wherever
Yeah.
you go, you can avoid it if you want to.
So this is the number I thought was fun. So between tolls, activities...
Sorry, I married a wife who thinks numbers are fun. This
Not
is
always. Not always.
That's true. When
I just like crunching the data.
Uh-huh.
So between tolls, activities, and campgrounds, we spent an average of $21.04 a day for the 119 days, or 118 days that we
that's
were
like
here.
phenomenal.
For Florida?
You
Just
cannot-
over $20 a day?
You cannot tell me that is not
Yeah.
doing Florida for cheap or free, and that's including Sun Outdoors.
Correct.
That's including
If we didn't include Sun Outdoors, it would be down to $17 a day.
and then if you take Dry
Yeah.
Tortugas out, which was also another major expense.
And we obviously didn't put in our regular bills. We didn't put in groceries.
this is-
but like
this
this
is
is just
all about-
RV related.
RV, staying, and activities. Now, you can come to Florida and blow thousands of dollars in a single week and go to Disney. We didn't go to Disney. We didn't have the Disney experience, but we did get to see manatees. We got to go to a sea turtle museum.
That was
We
free.
did quite a bit of biking on the
Sorry,
e-bikes.
hospital. I want to say hospital, not museum.
Yeah,
because
museum.
they're completely different. So in case you're wondering, like a sea turtle museum.
And then we did do some higher ticket items like going to Dry Tortugas
Yeah,
and things like
snorkeling,
that. There is so much to explore in Florida that is not going to break your bank. that if you look for it, you can find it.
I feel like we successfully crushed the series.
Absolutely. I was concerned when the whole Sun Outdoors thing happened that we were just going to completely blow it. But
boondocking most of the time.
Boondocking most of the time
really helped.
Made the more expensive things possible, to be honest.
We had to put in more legwork. We had to put in more work for it, but it really resulted in not spending that much. So make sure you subscribe because we're done with Florida. We're leaving tomorrow. We're headed north and we're gonna share our summer plans that have changed like 5 different times.
If you are a channel member and you came to the Q&A and we announced our summer plans, we apologize. Those are no longer our summer plans.
Well, it's slightly different. There's still a little bit of plans.
How many times have we changed them? 4 times?
4 or 5 times.
There's a chance we change them between now and the next video, but doubtful, doubtful.
Subscribe so you can see it and figure out where we're gonna take you this summer because it's gonna be a lot of fun. You guys are gonna be hanging out with us. It's always fun.
We'll see you next Friday.